The story continues as Tamiya makes a joke that he thought Gabimaru was a moving rag at first, and from his looks the swordsman is thinking that it might be his time to die. The shinobi takes a defensive stance as his bloody body barely holds on as they face each other. The two condemned criminals simulate how their encounter will end if they are to proceed. In engaging in combat, Tamiya is impressed that Gabimaru would be able to trade blows with him despite his current state and finds him to be truly exceptional internally. Gabimaru is certain that it would be difficult to defeat the swordsman without suffering further injuries. Tamiya states that from his observation the shinobi is more exhausted than he realizes. Gabimaru also notices that Tamiya's center of gravity is shifted towards his left side. The shinobi can tell from Tamiya's posture that he's overcompensating to protect that side. Based on this, Gabimaru concludes that his left arm is too badly injured to use. Now that they have stated their opponent's weak points, the two have another simulation, and from the results, they will probably cause fatal damage to each other. Fuji has had enough of their pointless show of force and puts a stop to it. Tamiya argues that it is far from pointless, as all fights begin with an assessment of each other's preliminary movements. The executioner feels like it is a waste of time given their current predicament. Their main objective now is to gather as much information as possible about the island. Fuji is curious to find out what put Gabimaru in such a state. He also wants to know what happened into his assigned executioner and the identity of the girl behind him. He draws his sword, expecting the shinobi to be forthcoming with his information without the need for any violence. Gabimaru rather takes a fighting stance, to Fuji's surprise, as he wonders if the shinobi intends to fight against him and Tamiya simultaneously. In his current state, the shinobi can see that his two opponents are undoubtedly strong. A vision of the Tencent he just faced flashes into his mind. He sees the bigger threat and relaxes his fists, knowing that he must change tactics if he's to defeat this overwhelming foe. He has shed the hollow persona, so he humbles himself by bowing down. This confuses Tamiya. Gabimaru suggests that they should work together given their strength. Tamiya responds by launching an attack at the shinobi, but he doesn't flinch, which means that he is being sincere with his request. However, he is disappointed in Gabimaru. The swordsman seeks strong warriors, not cowards who easily bow their heads to their enemies. Fuji points out that he's thinking too simplistically, but he wants to know why Gabimaru is willing to ally. He explains the situation regarding the appearance of the Tenshin. Tamiya gets excited that such a strong foe exists, while Fuji is fascinated by their immortality and wishes to dissect them for further study. Gabimaru adds that he doesn't know the specifics, but he just wants to earn his pardon so that he can see his wife. He's willing to do anything to achieve that goal, so he pleads for their help. Fuji points out that they don't have any proof that what he's saying is true, but Tamiya dismisses all the potential red flags. He just wants to get to Horai so that he can do battle with the Tencent. The swordsman is not interested in the pardon, but he wants his name to be cemented in the history books for his feats and achievements. His goal is to be a legend that will inspire countless generations. Tamiya intends to defeat the Tencent, and Fuji will be there to examine their remains. With their various agendas aligning, the three place their weapons forward to cement the deal with the alliance. Now official. Fuji would like more information about their current situation. Mei regains consciousness as Gabimaru prepares to explain how she fits into everything. The shinobi has a look of surprise on his face, which Fuji notices. Gabimaru discloses that Mei was a little girl just moments ago, but in that short period she seems to have grown. Tamiya takes it as one of the mysteries of female development. She calls Gabimaru's name, which leaves the guy speechless for a moment. He quickly rushes over to her and begins to question her on her identity and if she knows anything about the elixir. As he holds her, he realizes that he's being a little too overbearing and relaxes. As he apologizes, he starts the interaction again by first thanking her for saving his life. Since she can talk now, he pleads for her to inform him of the mysterious power she used to help them escape. Based on her abilities, he assumes that she is just like the Tencent. Meanwhile, Sudri and company are being led by Hoko in search of Gabimaru, and Mei they discuss how the island functions as people's souls are sent to be screened by the Tencent. And all right, after hearing everything, Sente is certain that the religion practice on the island is man-made. This explains why there are references to different religions on the island. He believes the intention of the one in charge was to only have humans who transformed into flowers return to the normal world. If that is the case, it could be a big clue in understanding the purpose of the island. This will then lead them to the elixir and a way to escape this hell's paradise. The others look at him a little strangely, and he immediately apologizes for getting carried away with his theories. Talk turns to Gabimaru as they wonder if he's still alive. Sudri is certain his heart still beats because he must survive to see his beloved wife. Back to the shinobi, he pleads for Mei to share the hints and secrets on how to defeat them. She informs them that they use a power called Tao, but because she is still getting used to speaking, Mei is only able to use single words to describe the concept of Tao and how to use it. Gabimaru finds it difficult to follow her overly basic explanations. Tamiya picks up on some of the phrases and speculates that she could be referring to what they call the navel in martial arts. Meanwhile, Hoko explains to the others that Tao is the power that flows through all things, and the Tensins can control that power. So, to touch Tao is to interact with the origin of the universe. They find it difficult to also follow his explanation as it is a concept that is foreign to them. Back in the forest, Nurugai performs a sneak attack on Cheyenne, but the master swordsman easily disarms her. While sheathing her sword, he informs her that no matter what, he will not train her on how to use a sword. The girl pleads for him to teach her the way of the blade. They both swore to avenge Tenza, but he doesn't want to see any more young lives end. In front of him, he tells her that he will avenge him but will not wait for her skill to improve to do so. Nurugai can see that Cheyenne is no ordinary man since what he just displayed transcends instincts. She begins to get emotional as she begs for him to train her, pointing out that she doesn't want to see any more of her loved ones dying before her eyes. Hearing her reasoning changes his mind a little, so he begins to explain that everything in the world produces a unique wave. These waves also flow around the human body. Cheyenne can sense those waves, which gives him the ability to perceive the world around him. He knows Nurugai's height and the fact that she has her hair tied up. Being able to use their waves doesn't only improve one's senses, but their physical capabilities too. Hoko also mirrors these sentiments as he too reveals that mastering Tao grants one godlike strength and fortifies the body. It seems like the ways that Cheyenne senses must be Tao. He explains that one's thoughts must be organized to sense these waves. They must be in a flawless state of equilibrium where yin and yang are perfect. One can draw out the power of Tao once they enter that state, which will allow them to exceed their normal capabilities. But he points out that the way Nurugai wields a blade is all wrong. He briefly shows her, just as they get attacked by a unit of monsters, and a glimpse of what Cheyenne sees is shown before the guy gets to work dealing with the threat. He gives Nurugai tips to learn from him as they fight. He too feels like he must hone his skills if he's to stand a chance against the Tencent. During the interim, the monsters have also been unleashed at Gabimar's location. Tamiya deals with the first wave with one big swing of his sword. The shinobi complains that they can't even get some time to talk. The swordsman comments that if using Tao is the way to defeat the Tencent, then they must use this battle as an opportunity to learn how to use it, since they will not get the opportunity to relax and learn it. He picks me up and places her on his shoulders. He asks her to teach him the power of Tao, and as the monsters march forward, Gabimaru notices that there is an entity that is lingering behind, watching the encounter. All the while, two of the Tencent are getting busy as they discuss the fact that if one throws humans into the pit they created, the mortals begin to merge with the flowers, allowing them to harvest him more efficiently. To make matters worse, if the fresh people throw and try to escape, the others then have turned to flowers will try and stop them, as they want everyone to join them in their twisted bliss. After their recent defeat to the Tencent, Aza is currently climbing out of the pit with Tommen on his back. The ones that have succumbed to the flowers try to drag him back down, but he's ripping their bodies apart as he proceeds forward. They eventually climb out of the pit, although they are both heavily injured and exhausted. Oza informs his younger brother that they are going to eliminate Tenzin. Toma tries to reason with him as he suggests that they leave the island, but when he sees the crazed look on his brother's face, he goes along with it. However, he puts forward that they should come up with a plan of attack. Oza doesn't believe that they need one. From their first encounter, he has already figured out that the Tencent's weak point is their lower body. When they dealt any damage, it began to regenerate from the lower body, meaning its weakness is in the groin or navel. Since they seem plant-like, it makes sense that their weakness is in the bottom half with the roots. Toma watches his brother, still amazed by his ability to assess the situation and come up with a plan. Oza takes his silence as him being hungry, so he pulls an arm from the pit to feed his brother. But the guy is not interested, he yells as Oza tries to eat it. They are interrupted when a salient monster interrupts the brothers. They quickly distance themselves from the danger. Oza doesn't want any long talk and just wants to end the monster. But it assures them that it is capable of reason. It explains that it only came to investigate on orders from the Tencent. It introduces itself as a doshi, and they are currently scouting out the humans who have arrived on the island. The other monsters are called Sashin and they are below them in rank since the doshi are capable of reasoning. They are the personal assistants of the Tencent. The monster pleads for the brothers to climb back into the hole and allow themselves to become tan for their consumption. Oza responds with a kick that it dodges but encounters with a punch. The Bandit King counters the counter by grabbing its hand and snapping it off. His strength is so overwhelming that the monster suspects that he might have consumed Tao. Since it doesn't look like they are going to come to a peaceful resolution, he summons some of the monsters to attack the brothers. Toma deals with the fodder while his big brother handles the talking monster. It can see that Oza is exhausted by his Tao. As the Bandit King attacks, the monster acknowledges that he has an affinity to master it, but since he can't use it currently, it will be difficult for him to win. He showcases this when he attacks Oza from his blind spot. The throat injury forces him to collapse to the floor bleeding, and Toma calls to his brother, marking the end of the episode.